Welcome back, Truth Seeker. In this video, I want to talk about the breaking news, the kidnapper, or the supposed kidnapper of UFC fighter Walt Harris, his daughter. Supposedly this man has kidnapped his daughter. We're going to talk about what's interesting about this story. We're going to go back and see what I presented October 24th when the news first broke in light of his upcoming fight on December 7th. And we're going to connect, a very ritualistic pattern in the entertainment industry with tragedy and death and disappearances and a certain set of numbers. And if you watch today's earlier live stream, literally the last thing I did online, this presentation on Rodney Reed's death, the YK Osiris arrest, the murder of the Houston rapper, and a couple other things, the exact same pattern that I talk about in that video, and pretty much the same pattern I talk about almost every single day. It's going to be exactly what we talk about in these stories. The death of Nicole Murphy's mother, this latest suspect in the Walt Harris story. Remind about the death of Charlie Murphy, the brother of Eddy Murphy, since it's his former wife's mother who just passed. And also remind how Charlie Murphy's death connected to Prince's death a year earlier, both men dead at age 57. A very special number, a number we're going to talk a whole lot about in this video. And if you weren't here, once upon a time after the 58th Grammys when Vanity died, I put out a video that day and I said, we're going to be reading about Prince next by a certain set of numbers, which again are the same, very repetitive numbers. So let's just go through this. Today, November 7th, 2019, Thursday, it's reported that the man Ibrahim Yazeed is the suspect in the kidnapping of Walt Harris's daughter. And if you're new here, we talk about gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, which comes from Kabbalah, which is important to Freemasonry, which is very important to the world of entertainment. It's one of the best kept secrets about the world of entertainment. And anyway, Ibrahim Yazeed equals 127. 127. And why does that matter? Well, if you watch my video on October 24th, the concluding part of that video is about the significance of the number 127. Walt Harris, who's a fighter, whose daughter has been kidnapped by supposedly Ibrahim Yazeed. His upcoming fight is December 7th. And it's funny, I just talked about December 7th and buildings 1, 2, and 7 in the new Pearl Harbor since December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, in the end of the last live stream I just did. Because again, it's just the same numbers that come up all the time. And anyway, it was different topics, but the same numbers. So anyway, December 7th, the date of the fight. That was Pearl Harbor Day, the day that Japan supposedly bombed Hiroshima, right? This day of tragedy in history. And they said September 11th was the new Pearl Harbor. And 3 buildings that fell that day, 1, 2, and 7. 1, 2, and 7, like 127, like December 7th, like 12/7, 127. So Ibrahim Yazeed's 127. Walt Harris is fighting a fighter named Alistair Overeem. And Alistair equals 127. Execution's 127, which might end up being the story about his daughter. We might eventually get a headline that her body was found. Hopefully it has a more positive ending than that. But the point is, all of this stuff is ritual. And like I said, day one, I could tell it was synced up with the fight. And we're going to go back and revisit that post. But we're just going to start with the significance of 127, which we commented on in the last video. And again, what is 127? It represents Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which again controls government, media, sports, police, many things. Very powerful. This nation, founded by Scottish Rite Freemasons, Washington, D.C., named after George Washington, who was a Scottish Rite Freemason. Bavarian Illuminati is also 127. And the Bavarian Illuminati was established just before the American Revolution. And the story is that the Bavarian Illuminati infiltrated Freemasonry and put it on a slightly different path to fight the Jesuits. And I guess there's another way to think about that in terms of the history of Washington, D.C. It was once the Catholic colony run by the Jesuits. And now it's named after a Scottish Rite Freemason. So if there were once competing powerful secret societies, and there were Freemasonry, Illuminati, Jesuits, maybe somebody eventually came out on top of that battle and the other ones pretty much had to bow the knee. Anyway, George Washington also once wrote a letter that he was afraid that Freemasonry had been infiltrated by the Bavarian Illuminati. So anyway, these same numbers, they show up all the time in so many rituals. If you read my book, you'll just see how redundant it is. And if you do go to my book, a good death, that's bad phrasing. A good example of a death by these numbers is looking into the death of the man who played Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini, and the other actor's name, whose name is escaping me right now, who was also in The Sopranos, and how both of them died in similar ways in Italy 127 weeks apart, plus a whole lot more to it. But anyway, 127. Infamous number. And I was typing too fast here. This isn't supposed to say 12/7/2019, and 12 plus 7 plus 2019 isn't 57. It's supposed to say 11/7/2019. 11 plus 7 is 18, plus 20 is 38, plus 19 is 57. Today, the day of this update in the news, Ibrahim Yazeed. Today's a date with 57 numerology. And Scottish Rite equals 57, Walt Harris equals 57, George equals 57. George Washington inaugurated at age 57, as well as the majority of the first presidents. I believe 4 of the first 6 were inaugurated at age 57. Again, Scottish Rite, number that shows up all the time. And so anyway, that's the first point to understand. We already covered the number 127 the day the story broke. I said it looked like the whole thing was synced up with the fight. And sure enough, the next detail comes and bam, one of the key numbers that we looked at right away. So this news broke October 24th, 2019. She reportedly disappeared the day before October 23rd. October 24th was a date with 73 numerology. It was also a date with a lesson number of 46, and it was a date with 19 numerology as well. All of those numbers break down to 10 and 1 in numerology. But sacrifice is 73 and 46. The name of the fighter upcoming is Alistair Overeem, 73. And the story came 6 weeks and 2 days before the upcoming fight. Sacrifice is also 62. Again, there's 4 base ciphers. The alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. You learn these 4 ciphers, you see through things. And I'd encourage you, if you're new here, to take the time to watch the video I did yesterday on the Mexican massacre for another presentation on the exact same numbers. Because that's what it's like day after day. Like I go on at length all the time. It's very clear who is behind these rituals and who's running the show. And if you want to call it the Bavarian Illuminati or the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, it doesn't matter because it does seem like one took over the other. And this is how it operates. Freemasonry operated this way too, so again, it doesn't matter. Secret societies running the show, doing things ritualistically this way. And for people who don't understand why, again, you have to look into Kabbalah. Kabbalah says Kabbalah's Book of Formation states that God created the world with letters, numbers, and words. This is how the powers that shouldn't be play God over the masses. From Walt Harris's birthday to the day this news broke was his 137th day of his age. Remember, Morals and Dogma, the Masonic Bible that praises Kabbalah, equals 137. Kabbalah in Hebrew equals 137. Washington, D.C., 137. It's the 33rd prime number. Masonry, secrecy, order, all 33. Another very special number. There's a statue of the book Morals and Dogma with the Freemason Walter Pike in Washington, D.C. He's the only Confederate with a statue in D.C. And think about that, how all the Confederate statues have been torn down all over the place, but the one still stands in D.C., the one where they're holding the essentially Masonic Bible. There are Masonic Bibles too, but just this super important text of Masonry, Morals and Dogma, which equals 137, again, like Washington, D.C., like Kabbalah in Hebrew. So anyway, We pointed out how Walt Harris, his name with the nickname Walt the Big Ticket Harris is 139. Like if you put the in front of Bavarian Illuminati, it's 139. Like Freemasonry is 139. Like America's 139. If you haven't seen my work on the establishment of the Bavarian Illuminati and the naming of the United States of America on September 9th, you should definitely check that out. And the Bavarian Illuminati was established with 13 families. The story's out of Alabama, 13. Alistair Overeem also sums to 233, the 13th Fibonacci number. And the story came 96 days after Walt Harris's last fight. Freemason's 96. Freemason, when you turn the alphabetic order around, is 147, like Ultimate Fighting Championship. Like the name of his daughter, Ania Haley Blanchard. Walt Harris is currently 13-7 in his UFC fighting career. Come back up to his stats. 13 wins, 7 losses. On his 137th day of his age, you get the news of the disappearance of his daughter. And again, all these numbers point to Freemasonry. And with regards to 147, think about his current record, 13-7. So what can happen in his next fight? You know? Walt Harris equals 48, like Freemason, like Illuminati. If you count the span of days from his last fight to the date of the news, it was a span of 97 days. Death is 97. Number that shows up around death often. Tupac shot on 9/7, September 7th. You had the death of Mac Miller on the 22-year anniversary. September 7th can also be written 7/9, like 79. Murder equals 79. 79 is the 22nd prime on the 22-year anniversary of the death of the Tupac. You get the, or not the death of Tupac. Tupac died 13/9, 139, like Freemasonry, like Tupac Shakur's 139. But he was shot September 7th, and he reportedly died September 13th. And then he went out with the alias Machiavelli, who faked his death. That album, if I'm not mistaken, came out 53 days after his death. Machiavelli equals 53. His Tupac's mother's death was announced on Machiavelli's birthday, which I believe was May 3rd. Anyway, off topic, but related. From the date of the news to the date of the upcoming fight is 44 days, or 1 month and 13 days, or 6 weeks and 2 days. Kills 44, sacrifices 62, Scottish is 113, as in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Executions also 44, it's also 127, like where we began. And that's strange. Hold on. Huh. Anyway. What do you know? What do you know? The same old, same old. And now with the regards to the death of Nicole Murphy's mother, this headline right here, I lost the most beautiful person in the world, codes 206, sacrifice in Jewish gematria is 206, the most important cipher outside of the base ciphers. Pretty much just stick to the 4 ciphers plus Jewish gematria. And notice Nicole Murphy sums to 57. The mother died Monday, November 4th. That was the day leaving 57 days left in the year. Remember, cat equals 57. Whoa. That is weird. I do not know what's going on with that. November 4th was the day that Cat ran on the field on Monday Night Football. If you missed my video on that, you might want to check it out. Cat's 57. It was the final game of Week 9. Cats have 9 lives, plus a whole lot more to it. Black Cat equals 53. The Cowboys went on to win. The record became 5-3 when you flip the alphabetic order around. Black Cat's 55 points scored in the game, plus a whole lot more. But anyway, and American football credited to Walter Camp of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So, again, there's a reason that these rituals are done around these numbers again and again. And in light of the mother dying on the day leaving 57 days left in the year, and in light of her having a daughter in the world of entertainment, remember, entertainer equals 57. We've talked about the deaths of Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's brother, and Prince at age 57. Nicole Murphy was married to Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy's making a little return right now. He just got a show on Netflix. I think it's called Call Me Dolomite. We can talk about the gematria of that too. It equals 74, like Masonic, like occult, like English, like gematria, like Jewish, like killing. So, anyway, just recall Charlie Murphy, his brother, died at age 57, April 12th, 2017, almost 1 year after the death of Prince. And Charlie Murphy on the Dave Chappelle Show did the skits. You know, the Diaries of Charlie Murphy, one of them where he plays basketball with Prince. Probably one of the most memorable skits from all of the Chappelle Show. And Prince died April 21st. Remember, Prince had the song I Would Die For You, and he spelled it with the number 4 and the letter U, way ahead of his time because that song was recorded in 83. But he did I Would Die For You, number 4, letter U. And he died on 4/21, used the 21st letter. So I would die for you is like saying I would die 4/21, April 21st, the date of his passing. Remember, that's the Queen's birthday too. The Queen, Prince. They lit up Niagara Falls purple the day Prince died on the Queen's birthday. Vanity, who died before the 58th Grammys. She was from Niagara Falls. But then Charlie Murphy dies April 12th. And I saw a sick ritual in it. If you just missed the video I did on Harriet Tubman and why that movie came out the day it did, Harriet Tubman equals 60, so does the N-word. Came out on the day leaving 60 days left in the year. That same day, the front page story of CNN was about a woman who was called the N-word. And you go, what a coincidence, you know. This number, 60 days left in the year, Harriet Tubman. Anyway, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, the N-word equals 102, like slavery. And Underground Railroad also equals 102. Well, it seemed that was part of the ritual with the death of Charlie Murphy, who died on the 102nd day of the year, April 12th, which is also the same day in history that the Civil War began in 1861. But the other thing I saw in this was when Dave Chappelle made his comeback after being gone forever. Chappelle was 42 years old, and they had him at the BET Awards that year. To the same year they remembered Prince, and notice the name Chappelle's 42. 42 is this number coded all over Black history. The N-word's 42. February, Black History Month's 42. The Slang Brothers is 42. Slavery, Martin, Malcolm X, Huxtable, Tuskegee, and more. Just this number coded all over Black history. What should definitely be up on this list is Jackie. The name Jackie equals 42. Jackie Robinson, number 42. You know, Martin in the sitcom Martin Lives in Apartment 42. You just pay attention in movies, commercials, TV shows. Pay attention to how often they have a number 42 in the scene with black folks. You'll see. All the time. All the time. And anyway, April 12th, the 102nd day of the year. Again, also connects. And this was around the time of the NBA Finals. But again, it's always the same stuff. So when I did the video at the time going over all this information, it would have been a lot more connectable because the events that we were talking about then were current. So anyway, the main thing I want people to understand is it happened while... hold on. Let me see something real quick. Okay. The main thing is that it happened while he was 57 years old, and Prince had just died at age 57 1 year earlier, just shy of his 58th birthday. And again, the word entertainer equals 57. And if you go back on my blog and find the older work about the death of Prince's father, who was also in entertainment business, his death had a lot to do with the same numbers. I need to even go back and review my own work. I think his mother's death might have fit right in too. But speaking of entertainment in 57, this just happened to the young rapper YK Osiris on November 4th, the same day of the death right here, November 4th, of Nicole Murphy's mother. So on this same day, this rapper, YK Osiris, gets arrested, supposedly from an incident that stemmed back to September 7th, the day of his birthday, and pointed out that from September 7th to November 4th, the day he was arrested, again, the day leaving 57 days left in the year, it was his 59th day of his age, this number that's stamped all over Black history. 42 and 59 are the numbers stamped all over Black history. And consider February ends on the 59th day of the year, the awkward month. Negro, slave, blues, they're all 59. And since the incident was from his birthday, when you write out birthday, it's 42. Recall 2 years ago, on Jackie Robinson's birthday, you had the deaths of 3 celebrities, all of which were black, and all of which had names summing to 42 in the most pure cipher. This one right here, the alphabetic order with the rules numerology. It was Rajuel Butler. It was Oscar Gamble. Oscar Gamble was a former baseball player who died 42 days after his own birthday on Jackie Robinson's birthday. Here, I'll just type in these names real quick, show you. It was Oscar Gamble, former baseball player, dead 42 days after his own birthday on Jackie Robinson's birthday. Oscar Gamble's 42. Rajuel Butler. This is right before Philadelphia won the Super Bowl. He was a Philadelphia basketball player. Rajuel Butler, 42. And then, if I got the spelling right on this, LaTanya Lemon. Yep, that's how it's spelled. LaTanya Lemon. That's the sister of Dawn Lemon on CNN. Notice the word pond is 59. The name Lemon is 59. Again, 42, 59. They said that LaTanya Lemon drowned in a pond while ice fishing on Jackie Robinson's birthday. And Jackie's 42, where you run the alphabetic order in reverse and use the rules of numerology. And if you look this up, Moses Walker, this is the name to look up. Moses Walker is actually the first black baseball player in white major league. He played in the late 1800s, and guess how many games he played in? Exactly 42. Moses Walker, 42. But the other year, on Jackie's birthday, LaTanya Lemon, Rajuel Butler, and Oscar Gamble all died. So the news was first reported February 1st. She died the day before, January 31st, which is Jackie Robinson's birthday. Anyway, they just do these same rituals with these same numbers all the time. Sometimes it's shaming, sometimes it's death. But again, from his birthday, September 7th, the same day Tupac got shot in history, from his birthday to this shaming ritual was 58 days after, or his 59th day of his age. So, and Freemasonry is 58 and 59. And again, November 4th leaves 57 days left in the year. The Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. His hit song is Worth It, which equals 113 like Scottish. Again, this morning we talked about Rodney Reed, who's on death row. He's going to be executed on the day leaving 41 days left in the year. The name Rodney Reed's 113 and 59, and he's responsible for a murder supposedly from April 23rd, 1996. April 23rd is the 113th day of the year. He's in this penitentiary that has Gematria 103, like Scottish. Again, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the victim's name. Stacy Stites, the exact same in 3 out of the 4 ciphers as Scottish Rite. And, yeah, check out the video I did earlier. There's a whole lot more to it. But she was murdered April 23rd, 113. Just makes you wonder what's really going on with some of these things. And the original suspect was a guy named Jimmy Fennell, 57 Scottish Rite. I mean, he's in prison in a town with 277 Gematria, the 59th prime. And here, just to bring it full circle, this prison story, it happened in Bastrop, or the murder story for the man who's now in prison on death row. The murder happened in Bastrop, Texas, 74. Look at Eddie Murphy's new show on Netflix. No, I must be spelling it wrong. I thought it was called I Am Dolomite. I guess if I just type in Dolomite, it'll probably bring it up. Dolomite is my name. That's the full name of it. Dolomite is my name. So let me put it in right. Dolomite is my name. You see that 74 right there? Again, that's the number. Show you something. Just using the alphabetic order. A's 1, B's 2, C's 3, D's 4, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, D, 4, E, 5, so on. Z, 26. If you type in English, 74. The practice of coding numbers into words is gematria. Gematria is 74. It's a Masonic practice, 74. It comes from Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah, 74. It's an occult practice, 74. So 74, this super special number. There's a song out there called Gematria, the killing name. Killing is 74. The Ides of March, to remember the murderous Caesar, is March 15th, the 74th day of the year. All roads lead to Rome. So, anyway, Eddie Murphy gets a show. It's got 74 encoded in it, this number that shows up around murder all the time. And the next thing you know, a death in the family. And People magazine codes out the headline. Where did I put it? With sacrifice. You know, I lost the most beautiful person in the world. 206 like sacrifice. And one last thing. In the news, they're saying really severe temperatures are coming to the east, an Arctic blast, and they're saying the West Coast is going to have abnormally warmer temperatures during the same time. Again, people don't look up. They don't see what's going on. They haven't noticed how much more bizarre the weather's becoming, or maybe they're starting to. You got articles about how Harvard and the Ivy League schools, they want to sponsor a program to begin blocking out sunlight by spraying aerosols into the atmosphere to curb global warming, as they call it. But then you look up and you realize that planes are flying over making tic-tac patterns almost every single day all over this world, and you know that from people documenting it all over the world. And everywhere I've been in the last, 10 years, it's been a whole lot more common to see these tic-tac patterns. But you also see this really bizarre weather and these really rapid shifts in temperature. And I mean, it's really screwing with wildlife. When it gets super warm in the middle of winter and then it gets super cold, like way warmer than normal and then way colder than normal, what do you think that's doing to the natural life forms? Especially when it happens in the spring and then the birds, they lay their eggs early and then they hatch and then all of a sudden, they think it's spring, but then it's colder than it's been all year. I mean, what do you think happens? And then you find the nest of birds dead at the bottom of your tree, 2 years in a row because of this bizarre weather when you've never seen it before in your lifetime. And you realize, this just isn't in my backyard the last 2 years. This is obviously going on all over because of how crazy the weather is. And, farmers' food gets screwed up. But anyway, this isn't, and look at this forecast. This forecast for this extreme weather that's 6 days from now. Half the time the weatherman can't even tell the weather right tomorrow or even 12 hours from now. But whoa, they got this forecast for this really extreme weather and bank on it. It probably will come. And then just look at the color scheme. I got these blue blocking glasses. But still, it's like, have you ever seen a weather report that looks like this? What's that long acronym? I'm surprised they don't have LGBMQTMAC or whatever it is right on the screen with it for some more programming. Don't listen to those conspiracy theorists talking about chemicals in the sky. That is nonsense. But don't mind how insane the weather is either. And don't ask a question about it. Again, people forget that since 1952, it's been admitted that militaries of the world, it was first the Royal Air Force of the UK that admitted in 1952, they'd done something called Operation Cumulus to create downpours. And what they say is the conspiracy theory element is if it was truly responsible for the flooding that happened at that same time, But doesn't it seem, quite a coincidence that the military would be doing an experiment in that area to bring down more rainfall, and then the area has an unprecedented flash flood? Because those things are factual, and it was admitted to by the military that went on at that time. But then what's demonized, I now have an article written about me that even makes fun of that I help spread this awareness about this admitted fact from 1952, but they make fun of it saying, everybody knows that's a conspiracy theory. How's it a conspiracy theory? It's a documented fact that it's admitted to military weather modification experiment, which the United States admitted to doing all throughout Vietnam in the 60s. So it's like, okay, there's other examples. Anyway, the point is, you have to be an idiot to dismiss it as a coincidence. And that's what so many people have been programmed to do in this world, is replace the word conspiracy, which they've been taught is a bad thing, and just say, oh, it's just a coincidence. 9/11, it was just a coincidence that the U.S. military was doing all these drills that day, so there was no way to respond to these hijacked aircraft. Do you guys remember the story from the 90s where, like, the golfer, I forget what it was, a famous golfer was on a plane, and they realized that there was no response from the plane, so they had the F-16s right up by the plane that he was in, and they were all dead in there, something gone wrong with the oxygen, but they had the F-16s right there within minutes, because that's just how on-point air traffic control is. But it's like, wait a minute, on 9/11, they were like hijacking all these planes over this period of time, and we couldn't get any kind of response. I mean, and then they say it's because they were doing so many drills that day. And people go, well, that's just a coincidence. And then they tell you that men were dancing in New Jersey who had cameras set up to record the attack. And then they go back to Israel and they go on their own TV and say they were there to document the attack because they had foreknowledge. And then people just go, well, what are you? I mean, what? You don't think that's a coincidence? And what? Are you being anti-Semitic? It's like everyone's just like programmed to have these really idiotic responses. It's like, wait a minute, what does anti-Semitic have to do with anything? I'm just saying people from Israel were arrested and they went back there and admitted they were in the U.S. to record the attack because they had foreknowledge. And then buildings 1, 2, and 7 fell, and they called it the New Pearl Harbor, which was December 7th, 12/7. And then coincidentally in history there was the Manhattan Project, and that was to create powerful weapons to do insane things. And then on 9/11 in Manhattan, buildings that are 110 stories each are turned to dust, and they fall into this really tiny footprint and take up this really small space compared to how much they occupied before. Where did all that steel go? So, here, let me take a call and then I got to get off. What's up, man?
It was Payne Stewart.
Payne Stewart, yeah.
That was the golfer.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Who had recently converted to Christianity.
Interesting.
Which means that he was probably ritually sacrificed because he went against something.
I got to go back and look into all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Payne Stewart, it was pretty dramatic how those F-16 fighters followed him for almost half the country, a third of the country.
Right, but on 9/11, they couldn't get any kind of response.
9/11 was a false flag stand down.
Right.
They had an overlay drill for just such an event.
What are the odds? Hey, Payne Stewart was 42. 42.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He used to wear those knickers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, man.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. He was a pretty colorful guy.
Man, he died on the day leaving 67 days left in the year, the blood sacrifice number. Would you believe it?
Yep. No, that was pretty dramatic because they followed this plane from like Florida all the way up to North Dakota.
Yeah, it says that he officially died over Mina, South Dakota. I don't know how they figured that. I'm sure it's gematria. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah.
Payne Stewart equals 67. Man, Payne Stewart equals 67 like blood sacrifice, and he died on the day leaving 67 days left in the year.
Yeah, to get an escort like that.
Yeah, very interesting. I never looked. I'm glad you called in and reminded that was important.
Yeah, there were a lot of things about him that slowly came out, and then they just shut up about it. But he did give his life to Christ, and he was about to become a devout Christian. He was known as a very strong potty mouth.
Huh.
He cursed a lot. He was very outspoken. He was, this colorful character.
Very interesting.
Stewart, I believe, is a prominent Scottish family name, by the way, as well. There's two ways you can spell it. He spelled it the traditional way. A lot of times they spell it, English people sometimes spell it S-T-U-A-R-T. He spelled it S-T-E-W-A-R-T.
Yeah, that's what I see.
So it would be interesting to, go back to his family history, but I'm pretty sure his family's lineage is 100% Scottish.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, great information. Thank you.
All right, let's get back to it.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Okay, so I was just seeing what else stands out, but Payne Stewart, 67, dead on the day, leaving 67 days left in the year. And again, I like when that happens, just to, anytime I can show on a live stream how fast you can see like what's really going on and just how repetitive the numbers are. 67 in suspicious deaths is one that happens a ton. Blood sacrifice is 67. And come back to Prince, the day Vanity died, I talked about how 67 was encoded in her death and 118. And I said, just watch. When Prince dies, it's going to end up being these same numbers. Prince ended up dying a span of 67 days from Vanity, and then they reported that he died in an elevator. An elevator equals 118. 118. And in Jewish gematria, the only cipher I really use outside of the base ciphers, because, again, when you start using all the ciphers, you really can just start pretty much creating whatever you want to see. But if you stick to these ciphers, you're going to see very consistent patterns, and you're going to know that you're not just, taking whatever you want to fit whatever narrative you want to make. Because people really do. Like, I see some of the stuff people present using a million different ciphers, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. It doesn't look right to me. But anyway, death in 118, we just know. It's just like last year on November 8th, you get the deadliest wildfires. Somebody left a comment today about how some game's coming out for PlayStation tomorrow called Death Something. It just, the entire world of entertainment done this way. Death in 118 just shows up all the time. Go to my blog and type in Death in 118. You'll be there for a week. Or just read my book. Read the longest chapter in my book. My book's 800 pages. The longest chapter is 150 pages long. It's the Murder by Numbers chapter. It just goes through a ton of deaths. 118. It's an epidemic. So, all right, I'll take one more call and then we get off. Caller?
Hey, Zach. I was calling just to ask you if you knew that tomorrow was going to be 1 year and 65 days from the red heifer being born.
So Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. What'd you say? 1 year and 65 days? Okay.
Yeah, and then in reverse ordinal, red heifer equals 165.
Is that right? And Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is 165 too. So.
Oh. All right, I didn't know that. And also, Temple Mount equals 53, and Fault Line equals 53. And, of course, tomorrow is the day leaving 53 days left in the year.
Right, and Burn equals 53, and last year, Paradise, which equals 53, and Los Angeles equals 53, burned. And, of course, it's 11-8, and Los Angeles, California is 118, and Paradise, California is 118. If you watch the last 30 minutes of the radio show live stream we did last night, we talked a little bit about things that stand out about November 8th. And, again, the movie's coming out tomorrow, the John Cena movie, Playing with Fire on the 1 year anniversary. So.
Yeah, see, and I had something with that, right? Well, Playing with Fire is 182 and 223, just like Natural Disaster is 182 and 223. And also, John Cena's full name, which is John Felix Anthony Cena Jr., is 107 in reduction, just like Earthquake, just like Ring of Fire.
Well, check out the last 30 minutes of last night's TFR because there were some good observations syncing up with the Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting and a few other things on that day. So, yeah, I got my eyes open for tomorrow, November 8th, to see what the headlines bring.
I'm pretty sure I was the one who called in about the Garlic Festival. But there was one more thing. So, like, you know about how, the fire happened last year on November 8th, right? So it would be exactly a year from, today on the East Coast. Anyway, there's this subduction zone right outside California's coast called the Cascadia Subduction Zone, right? And in reverse, in regular, in gematria, it equals 365. So, just like a full year, 365 days. Also, Cascadia Subduction Zone also equals 85, just like the big one. And Cascadia equals 41, just like the big one equals 41. So I thought that was kind of interesting. If that subduction zone, if anything were to happen there, it could also set off the San Andreas Fault, right? And playing with fire is 96 minutes, just like Freemason, just like San Andreas and San Andreas Fault. So both of those equal 96.
It's from the July 4th earthquake again to tomorrow's a span of 128 days, and Independence Day equals 128. So yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, and also in that same cipher, bridge collapse equals 128, which I'd mentioned.
Yeah.
And also I think that's never mind. I'm pretty sure he said that's 4 months and 4 days. I think. But,
yeah. It is.
By the way, John Cena was born on the day leaving 252 days left in the year, and San Francisco CA equals 252.
Interesting.
And also, that day is also the 113th day of the year, and, of course, big one is 113 in Jewish gematria. So that's kind of, some of the biggest connections I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just kind of wanted to mention that.
All right, appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I was going to say the show Dig also started on, I think it was March 5th, so 5/3.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right.
All right, take care.
Take it easy.
Okay. Yeah, last year on this day you had the person spamming it in the chat. Was that what it was called? The borderline bar? Yeah, you had that shooting, and then I think it was late November 7th, if I remember right. And then right after those headlines, then you got the fires. So it was back to back for California. And we'll see. We'll see. So we'll leave it there, you guys. And we'll be back sooner than later. All right. Until next time.